Thank you. So it looks like 2011 is going to go out on a really good foot. We scored on a 400-gallon Bowfront aquarium system sale. There's two ironies about this. One is we're replacing an existing 300-gallon Reef tank, and the guy, for whatever reason, didn't want to go with his current service company. I kind of got the impression he didn't feel confident in their ability to set up the new system. Number two is, I've worked in this area for 20 years now. In fact, I started at a retail store just down the street. Out of the 20 years, this gated community called North Ranch, I've only been in here twice, and that was to move tanks out. Well, we've now scored on a sale inside the gates at North Ranch, so that's a good deal for me.
And welcome to LA Fishguys, episode 109. We're in the beginning stages of breaking down a 300-gallon, 14-year-old living coral reef tank. In fact, another interesting point, this tank was set up by a competitive shop to the one that I worked at back in the mid-90s. And the joke about this particular shop was usually half the store's inventory was in the cabinet below the aquarium. And I can see the current service business just continues on that tradition. But before we get too involved in the reef tank, what comes along with this job is about an 80-gallon saltwater fish only that's in the bathroom. And this tank is definitely in need of some service. It looks like it's an under gravel filter or canister driven via an under gravel filter type system. So there's nothing in the tank other than me vacuuming it that's going to be taking debris out of the tank. We don't know how long it's been since it was last serviced, and we definitely do not want to overclean the system. We'll remove the plastic plants out of the tank. We'll try not to be too invasive in vacuuming the gravel at the bottom, and then we'll put some new colorful decorations back into the tank.
Okay, so I've gone ahead and serviced this tank upstairs. I wanted to get it out of the way and done with so that when I start downstairs, I don't have to delay keeping the fish or corals in the buckets because they'll eventually consume the oxygen out of there. So again, I wanted to get this out of the way, and it's filthy dirty. And I do not want to over clean it here in the beginning, especially considering it's got a under gravel filter grid as the biological, and then you can see there's a pipe in there that returns and breaks the surface, and that's the source of oxygen. So I don't want to get too carried away. The canister and the heater module is down there underneath that cabinet, so it looks a little bit brighter, I think a little bit cleaner. Now we'll get on to the task that we're here for, and that is breaking down the 300-gallon reef tank. Okay, the plan is to unplug the system, drain clean water out of the tank down into a series of buckets on the floor. That way we've got clean water for the fish and the corals to go into. We'll then go ahead and start pulling the individual corals, putting them in the buckets. Once I've got the corals out of the tank, I can then go through and start pulling the live rock and putting that into the styrofoam containers. Even though the water will be all stirred up, that'll make it much easier for me to catch the fish. Once I've got the fish out of the tank, then I'm going to go through and siphon out the sand at the bottom of the tank, and then we'll go ahead and pump the rest of the water out of the system. So let's get to work.
So to start, we'll open up the canopy lid on top so we have access to the top of the aquarium for siphoning out the water. But really the first thing we need to do is unplug the water pumps below.
It's kind of a 14-year-old mess of spaghetti wires and everything all over the place. But this is the pump that drives the filter, and I backtracked it to that second plug down on the receptacle.
So cautiously, I'll reach in there and attempt to unplug what I believe is the main power cord for the main water pump. So I was right there. Let's see what else is inside the cabinet to discover.
You can see this unit's got a refrigeration unit. We'll incorporate that into the new system. A couple of pumps. I'm not sure if I'm going to use those over again. And then a large sump with a protein skimmer in there. Looks like a All-Seas or an ASM skimmer. With quite the load of supplies.
With the system officially unplugged, the lives of all the occupants inside the tank are now my responsibility. The first step we'll take is ensuring that we get some clean water from the aquarium. We'll fill these 5-gallon buckets so that the water's highly oxygenated or aerated.
So that we've got our clean water in buckets off to the side, or at least as clean as we can. It's undisturbed water that we siphon straight out of the tank. You can see it's a little yellow. Now, before I get started, I want to show you what precipitated this switcheroo, and that is the top of the acrylic tank has developed a crack in it. It's possible that it could be repaired, but I think he's kind of tired of the reef and looking for something else. So let's go ahead and start pulling corals.
And that's exactly what we'll do, because not all of those buckets down below will be holding fish. We've actually got to make room for all the living corals as well. When in Los Angeles, make it a point to stop in Long Beach, California at Age of Aquariums, 2642 Cherry Avenue, just off the 405 freeway near Signal Hill. At Age of Aquariums, their knowledgeable staff showcases designer aquariums featuring colorful corals and exotic fish, a spectacular 4-sided 500-gallon living coral reef, along with a wide selection of coral frags and a large selection of saltwater fish, the cute, the graceful, and the not so cute. Age of Aquariums also carries a selection of popular freshwater fish for the beginning hobbyist. Along with a full line of aquarium supplies and supplements, Age of Aquariums quarantines and medicates all their new fish and proudly provides LA and Orange County's largest aquarium maintenance service. Age of Aquarium is located at 2642 Cherry Avenue, just off the 405 freeway near Signal Hill. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays. For more information, dial 562-438-6252 or visit ageofaquariums.biz.
Hi there, my name's Jim Stime and you know me as the LA Fish Guy. Well, I also wear a couple of other hats. One of them is the jellyfish tank called the Jelly Aquarium, and the third is myfishtank.com. I offer an entire line of acrylic aquariums ranging from rectangular to hexagon, flatback hex, as well as the custom curve front aquariums. There's also an entire line of stands and canopies ranging from MDF to pine to oak with a variety of different finishes available. And the website is even smart enough that you can calculate what the freight and crate charges to your location will be. That's myfishtank.com.
We've got most of the corals out of the aquarium now. I just need to pluck a few more and then I can start removing the live rock. In preparation of removing the live rock, we'll position a number of styrofoam containers out in front of the aquarium to place those pieces of rock in. This is where the real challenge comes in when breaking down any living coral reef tank. First of all, we can't really see into the tank. In the process of removing some of the corals, we stirred up enough sediment that we really can't see clearly through the top of the tank. And two, as you can see, I have not cleaned the glass on the front of the aquarium, so I can't see through the front of the aquarium. There is a third issue here, and that is that the live rock has become a living reef, one uniform piece. Over 14 years, algae and other sediments have allowed a lot of this rock to bind or bond together. As I go through pulling out a lot of the rock, I notice there's a tremendous amount of sponge, brilliantly colored yellow and orange sponge, on the undersides of this rock, in fact holding a number of the pieces together. Additionally, who knows what's growing on or out of the rock, or possibly living within the rock. There are bristle worms, which are like centipedes, only with rows of tiny little hairs. Just like cactus, they stick in your skin and take days before you can get them out. There's also those little calcareous tube worms that seem to grow off the rock quickly and easily, and they not only grow quickly, but they'll break off easily, and unfortunately quite often break off under the skin and spend days festering down there before you're able to extract it. You would think wearing gloves would be a good idea, and I do believe it's a good idea. But the reality is, if it's a rubber glove, as you lift your hand in and out, it's going to fill up with water, and that water's going to want to drip out. If it's a cloth glove, the water's going to want to drain, and once again, the water's going to drip out. In both cases, it'll protect your hand a little bit, and maybe that's simply worth it, but it's also going to be a bit of a mess as far as going in and out of the top of the tank. And keep in mind, we're only referring to the live rock at the moment. There's still fish in the tank, and there could be rabbit fish or foxface rabbit fish, which have venomous spines at the top and are a very common fish in the coral reef tank. And who knows what other fish might be in the tank that the homeowner has forgotten to tell me, or has forgotten are even still in the tank. So I would suggest that you consider using some type of gloves when handling live rock, whether it be a new reef tank or an existing reef tank that you might be taking down. And so make sure to come on back for part 2 as we finish removing the live rock from this former 300-gallon living reef tank, and then try to figure out how to catch the fish and remove the sand from the bottom of the tank, and then drain the rest of the water.